Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell speaks today at the annual Jackson Hole gathering. What will be unspoken but still on everyone's mind is President Trump's criticism of the Fed for raising interest rates, in particular criticism against Mr. Powell. These are moves that he says could damage America's ongoing economic surge. Will butting heads with the president affect Powell's thinking today? Let's bring in David Nicholas of Nicholas Wealth Management. You know, we keep talking about these comments from the president in this Reuters interview, but it's so unheard of for any sitting president to publicly criticize a Fed chief like this. What did you make of that? And you think that Mr. Powell is going to address that today at Jackson Hole?
Yeah, if the Fed chairmen rarely make waves at these meetings. I don't think you're going to hear anything directly from the Fed chairman directed at the president. But I do think he will make a case as to why the economy is at a point that can support raising rates. And look, I understand the president's frustration.
You think he will make that argument? Okay, yeah. There's some that think he's going to be a bit dovish today, so that's interesting. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see anything, but the market is looking for anything that says that the Feds may delay a rate rise. But the frustration for the president, look, the Feds have raised rates 5 times since the president's been in office. He looks at this as a potential derailing of his growth agenda. But yeah, I think that's a little bit misguided due to the fact that the economy is doing fantastic. It can support interest rate rises, and I think we actually need rates to rise slightly from here.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to see runaway inflation. And I think that's one of the question marks. Is he going to address that issue today? Because when you do have a strong economy, you also have unprecedented federal borrowing right now. So the federal deficit is something that Powell has to look at. The committee has to look at and assess when they're raising interest rates. But if you don't start to hike interest rates again, and we're expecting one in September, maybe he'll talk about December. We don't know. But that seems to be kind of the traditional thinking if you're a Fed chairman.
It's a great point because, and if you relate the federal debt to a federal deficit and to our trade wars, the reason that we're seeing a trade deficit, in my opinion, is because of the federal deficit that we're running. There's no reason that we as a nation should be running an $800 billion to $1 trillion deficit at a time when the economies are doing so well. So I think the Fed is concerned about the stimulus that we've received from tax cuts and also this deficit spending. So we don't want the economy to overheat. So I think you're going to see the Feds maintain a policy that says, look, we want to maintain growth, but we don't want to see this economy get to a point that's unsustainable.
Yeah, the president did an interview with Fox and Friends yesterday, and he made comments that basically that the bull market would crash, that people would become very poor if he were to be impeached. What did you make of those comments?
I don't agree with the premise there, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the market's reaction this week, this hasn't been a good week for the president, but the market has overall slugged off most of the political turmoil that's happened this week. So, God forbid there's a change in the White House and there's a President Pence. I think we're going to see the same pro-growth policies. I think we're going to see the same type of growth that we've seen in the market, but we may see pro-growth policies without the trade war escalating. And so I think, as much as the president, he doesn't like the prospect of an impeachment, the market's telling us it doesn't really matter. They seem to slug it off, and I don't think anything changes going forward.
David Nicholas, great way to end this interview, and thank you for being on with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.